You know, guys, I think the one thing that I love about today's politics is not the direction we're necessarily going with politics, but they can't pass these stupid bills without it getting out into social media and the average person being aware of what the hell is going on. And with what's going on at the border, for us to secure the border, which we should all want, okay, we should all want to make sure we have just legal channels of being able to get into the country, okay, and not having this mass asylum seeker type stuff going on. But we're also not wanting to argue about a bill for border security as well as trying to throw in billions upon billions of dollars to go to Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan. Like, can we please just focus on the border, like passing a bill on how much we want to spend on the border, right? I mean, it just is absolutely insane what's going on. And this is why we all need to say no to this bipartisan border deal that they're trying to pass, because it's not even about the border. Honestly, the smallest portion of the bill is about the border, in my opinion. Okay, it's really giving about $80 billion to Ukraine and Israel combined. Actually, it might be a little bit more, but it's around 80 billion, guys. On top of, we've already given Ukraine over 100 and something billion already. You know what I mean? So we're going to hop right into it, guys. But thanks for hanging out with me today. I hope you're having a great day so far, and we're going to get this going. But make sure you smash that like button, subscribe to that channel if you haven't already, guys. We're going to get right into it, all right? But we have here on this first article here, and this is going to be from CNN because you know I'm not biased when it comes to this. Okay, we'll go to CNN too. Don't even worry about it. But senators unveil border deal and foreign aid package for Ukraine and Israel ahead of key vote. Senators unveiled a long-awaited border deal and foreign aid package with assistance from Ukraine and Israel on Sunday, paving the way for a key vote in the chamber this week, in which the legislation is at risk of failing and, if it does pass, setting up a clash with the House. In a sign of the grim odds facing the legislation, Speaker Mike Johnson declared the deal dead on arrival in the House after the text was released Sunday evening. The deal gives the president far-reaching powers to significantly restrict illegal migrant crossings at the southern border. If passed, the agreement would mark a tough change to immigration law, which hasn't been modified for decades. The sweeping $118.2 billion legislative package would also provide aid to key U.S. allies abroad, including billions of dollars to support Ukraine in its fight against Russia and security assistance for Israel, as well as humanitarian assistance for civilians in Gaza, the West Bank, and Ukraine. The border deal has placed one of the most vexing political issues at the center of President Joe Biden's foreign policy agenda and forced him to take a tougher stance on an issue that has been a liability ahead of November. The compromise would implement strict limits along the U.S. southern border that have not been previously enshrined into law and would in fact severely curtail asylum at the U.S.-Mexico border, a break with decades-long protocol. We're going to stop right there, guys, because this is a bunch of BS, because it's not. It's not. We're going to get into some of the key specifics here, but it's basically saying that it allows the president and their administration to like put a stop at the border once it hits 5,000 and then 8,500 asylum seekers. But they're already hitting that. They're not going to shut down the border. And it's not even a thing where they're going to shut down the border forever. All that's going to do is say, oh, we're just going to put a temporary stop until the numbers come back down. Oh, and then the numbers go back up. Oh, well, we got to put another stop on it. This is just going to put basically a de facto number that it's going to enshrine in the law how many that we're just going to allow. These cartels are smart. They're going to bring them in. They're just going to hit that same number time after time. Keep it right under that threshold, right? I mean, guys, 5,000? Let's do the math. Let me bring out my calculator. We got, let's do what? 5,000. And let's see. And that was 5,000 a week. We're talking about a week, guys. I mean, this is insane. Times that, 20,000. Bam. So that's over 240,000 a year if that's the case. But I think is it a week or is it a day? We're about to find out. So let's read this article a little bit more. Now, it's the product of months of bipartisan negotiations with a trio of senators: Democratic Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut, Independent Senator Kristen Sinema of Arizona, which he's not really independent, and Senator James Lankford of Oklahoma, one of the chamber's most conservative Republicans. But former President Donald Trump and Johnson have attacked the border deal as too weak, and their opposition threatens to derail the legislation. They're putting a lot on Donald Trump for being against it, but it's really not Donald Trump. Anybody that wants border security and does not want billions more dollars going to Ukraine and Israel and every other place, they should be saying no to this thing too. Okay, it's just logical. It makes absolutely no sense to say yes to this if border security is what you want. Okay, they're giving more to protect the border, but they're only giving the option for the president and their administration to enact the closing the border at a certain number. But again, it's only at a certain number. So they're still saying that, okay, it's okay, we're still going to allow this much. They're going to hit that number every single time. It's going to stay right under that threshold, guys. Just watch. But House Majority Leader Steve Scalise slammed the border deal on Sunday evening and said it will not get a vote in the chamber, a move that will ramp up pressure even further on Senate Republicans and could convince on-the-fence Republicans to vote against it, knowing the measure won't even be considered on the House floor. Let me be clear. The Senate border bill will not receive a vote in the House, the Louisiana Republican wrote on X. Meanwhile, the House GOP's official account on X has begun campaigning against the deal, writing on social media, "Kill the bill." According to the Senate Appropriations Committee, the bill includes roughly $60 billion to support Ukraine in its war against Russia, $14.1 billion in security assistance for Israel, and $20.23 billion for operational needs and capabilities at the border, and to provide resources for the new border policies, an amount that rises above the $14 billion Biden initially requested for border security. The package also includes billions of dollars for regional partners in the Indo-Pacific. Biden said in a statement Sunday that he strongly supports the Senate border bill, calling it the toughest and fairest set of border reforms in decades. And it's not. All it's doing is giving you more judges to process more of these claims, and you're not going to put any judges in office that are going to be strict on the border. You're just going to give them asylum. All that's going to do is make them legal asylees. Okay? That's all that's going to do. And they're going to give them workers visas. Guys, all this is going to do is just legalize it's not going to stop it. This is going to increase the problem. And then it's going to put a hard line on exactly how many we're going to allow. And allowing 5,000, I think it's 5,000 a day, actually, guys. Let me double check that. Let's see if it's going to say in this bill here. I don't see it in this one, but I got it on the next thing. This is on the key highlights, again, on CNN. Let's scroll down. Okay, if migrant crossings increase above 5,000 on average per day. Oh, God, guys. 5,000 a day. Okay, did we really see that? It's not even 5,000 a week. They're saying that they are not going to do anything until it gets to 5,000 a day per week. Guys, oh my Lord, baby Jesus. This is crazy. All right, let's read this here. It's unlikely that the deal could take immediate effect even if it were passed, as it would require an immense number of resources, including the hiring of additional personnel, which often takes months. Here are the key changes included in the bill. New emergency authority to restrict border crossings if daily average migrant encounters reach 4,000 over a 1 week span. If that metric is reached, the Homeland Security Secretary could is the key word, guys, could decide to largely bar migrants from seeking asylum if crossed the border unlawfully. If migrant crossings increase above 5,000 on average per day on a given week, DHS is required to use the authority. If encounters reach 8,500 in one day, the department is required to trigger the authority. I don't know what the difference is, but the federal government is limited in how long it can use the authority. In first year, the government can use it for 270 days, then 225 calendar days in the second year, and 180 days in the third year. The authority sunsets after 3 years. I wonder why, guys. That way it can just keep dwindling once it's in the next administration, if that's what they're planning. codifies a policy that requires the government to process at least 1,400 asylum applications at port of entry when an emergency authority is triggered, raises the legal standard of proof to pass the initial screening for asylum, making it potentially more difficult for asylum seekers to pass. I really want to know how. Because the judges can just approve whatever the hell they want to approve, right? I mean, they really can when it comes down to this, guys. And then it expedites the asylum processing timeline from years to 6 months. Yeah, just make them legal at that point. Just make them legal asylees at this point. Introduces a new process in which U.S. citizenship and immigration services. Oh, let me get over here. My bad, guys. Introduced a new process in which U.S. citizenship and immigration services would decide an asylum claim without it going through the immigration court system. So now they're just going to again, guys, this is about expediting. Okay, this is not about border security. Preserves the president's authority to designate humanitarian parole on a case-by-case basis. President Joe Biden has used the authority for Ukrainians, Afghans, Cubans, Venezuelans, and Haitians. So who has he not left out? Among other populations. Again, guys. Includes limited changes that narrow the use of parole at land borders. Authorizes 250,000 additional immigrant visas to spread out over 5 years for family and applies to employment-based immigrants. Again, expedites, gives more legal asylee provisions, provides a pathway to citizenship for Afghans paroled into the United States after the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan, and it extends the special immigrant visa program for Afghans who worked for the U.S. government. That is the only part that I actually am okay with, because we completely screwed them and their families. Like, it's unbelievable. Only part of that I actually agree with. Everything else, guys, everything else on that is all expediting the process, not about protecting the border at all. Because again, it says that it gives the president the ability to shut down the border. It doesn't just shut down the border. Oh, guys, this is just driving me insane. Again, this is why you say no to a bill like this. Even if you think all the stuff about the border is good, you don't sign this into law, because they're giving another $60 billion to Ukraine and another $14.6 billion to Israel. We're almost giving as much money to Israel for security as we are even willing to give ourselves for border security. And it's BS border security, guys. Absolutely. Just look at this. Just look at what's in it. Just look at what's in it. I went off CNN. It's as nice to the bill as possible going at CNN. Okay? I mean, come on. We got to be on the same page with this. We got to be able to protect our border without having to fork out 75 to 80 billion extra dollars on top of what we already did give to Ukraine. Come on, please be on my side with this. But we got this little video clip here too, guys. And it's from Chip Roy. He went on CNN too. Everything's CNN today. Okay. Because we're talking border. They're giving us everything. They're trying to make it as rosy colored as possible. So I'd rather go based off that and still show you why it's bad. Okay. But we got this little 2-minute clip. Chip Roy going at this little analyst. She was also part of the town hall stuff that CNN does with Trump, so he did all that. But he went on here talking about why it's bad and why we shouldn't be voting for this bill anyway. And it has nothing to do with Donald Trump. Absolutely nothing to do with Donald Trump. Donald Trump just agrees that we shouldn't be signing a bill this stupid, especially when we have so much extra money tied to other countries. So let's take a look at this and see what we got.
And just given you are obviously a Republican, you live in a border state, why is the status quo better than this bill?
Well, good evening, Caitlin. Great to be on. I mean, first of all, the reality is the backdrop here is really important. We have Ukraine funding as a big part of this $118 billion bill, $60 billion for Ukraine, as well as some other foreign aid, none of which is paid for. And then you slap in $20 billion of border funding tied to legislation that we find to be problematic. We find it to be problematic on multiple levels. We believe that it is perpetuating the mass migration that this administration has been advancing under Secretary Mayorkas and under President Biden. We see that in the numbers. We see that in what we're looking at when we look at the bill. $4 billion to hire asylum officers to basically process people. These are not going to be conservative hires, right? They're working close hand in hand with the United Nations, NGOs. Speaking of that, another $1.4 billion to NGOs who have been running people up through the southern border. And to then put this sort of magical trigger at 5,000, which is basically about a 1.8 million number for the year. Now, I know they say that's encounters, but the fact is Mayorkas has been releasing about 85 to 90% of these folks into the country. We're getting hammered in Texas. This is not going to solve the problem.
On what you just said about that 5,000 number, if this was in place right now, wouldn't the border be shut down at this moment based on this number of encounters that would launch that trigger to shut down the border?
No, in fact, what would happen is it would set sort of a de facto, standard, right? Normalizing about 5,000. So imagine, if you will, you've got that 5,000 people are at the border. The cartels are coordinating this all the time. Take, for example, right now, in Eagle Pass, whether you like it or not, Governor Abbott and Texans have been doing what they've been doing in Eagle Pass. That number is now down to about 200 from 4,000 just 2 weeks ago. What happens is the cartels, they look at it and they go, oh, that ain't working there. So guess where they're all going now? Arizona and California. If you set a standard of about 5,000, the cartels will go, I get it. 4,999, you got it. We'll process those through. Your asylum officers will move them.
If it hit that average of 5,000, it would shut it down until they dropped by 75%. That's what's in here. But can I ask you, because you listed other things that it's in here, Congressman.
What I'm telling you is the cartels would adapt.
I hear what you're saying.
There would be 4,999.
I should note, the people who wrote this bill disagree with you. They say
the people that wrote this bill would disagree with you. Yeah, because they don't know the border. They don't know about the cartel. They don't know how smart these people are. This is $1 billion enterprise for the cartel, guys. $1 billion enterprise for the cartel. Just keep that in mind. You know what I'm saying? We got to get border security, but we have to do it the right way. And doing it the right way is not meaning shoving 75 to 80 billion extra dollars to funding for other countries on top of that. That is just BS. Absolute BS. And every person who cares about the United States should be against that as well. Let's vote on aid to other countries separately. These should be separate bills, guys. Shouldn't they? I am all on board with that. They should not be voting on these hundreds of and thousands of page bills that are just shoving a whole bunch of different bills, really. They should all be different bills and just shoving it into one and trying to get it passed. It's lazy. It's absolutely lazy, and we deserve better as the American people. So I hope you guys liked it, guys. Just stuff that we really got to be aware of with how crazy the border stuff is getting right now, but want to make sure we're up to date on it. Let me know what you think about it in the comments, though. But I hope you have a great rest of your day. Enjoy your day. Stay blessed out there, and I'll see you on that next video.